we don't have a quorum, and the other one is that the minutes haven't been distributed, so we'll have to do that in January. I'm going to go to old business. We invited Nicole Brugman to join us today. She will be, let's see, Susan can't unmute herself. Let me see if I can do that. You're not showing up as muted on my panelist list, Susan. You should be able to talk. I don't know what's going on there. But Nicole, it was announced last month, will be the next leader of the St. Louis City Senior Fund as Jamie retires. And so we invited her to join us. Nicole is currently, or was currently, on Missouri Council on Aging. Is that correct, Carol? Is that the?
Yes.
And she serves on the steering committee for the senior tax levy ballot initiative, and that's where I met her a few months ago. And Jamie is not on the call. I don't know if she's I don't know when that formally that transition occurs. Maybe it's at the beginning of the year.
I believe so. I think Jamie serves till the end of the calendar year. Okay. I could be incorrect, but I think that's.
And but I thought it would be a good idea to get Nicole introduced to our commission and to be able to continue to share what's going on in the city with us. Nicole and I, about a month ago, had a conference call, Zoom meeting with State Representative Christ to discuss whether he would support a senior tax levy. Even though it's a county vote, we just wanted to know whether this was something that he would vocally support, and he was taking it under advisement. We described the purpose of what a senior fund could do in the county, and that we were hoping that there would be a ballot initiative in the future. We explained to him what the commission does, and he was very interested because he does represent districts that are represented by our members. I think he overlaps Lisa Hotley's district, and maybe you, Mike. Is he your state rep?
Doesn't sound familiar, no.
Okay, because he's kind of Kirkwood, Sunset Hills, maybe
I'm further south.
Salisbury.
I'm further south.
And then he is, and then west, I think maybe. Anyway, I think he goes as far west as 141. So it was an interesting conversation because Nicole's current role entails a lot of governmental interactions and lobbying. She has a lot of connections that might actually be helpful to us. So that's all I have to say about that. The next agenda item is Home Repair Network. There was a get-together last night. I attended, and the Home Repair Network is currently soliciting applicants for their executive director position. I think we've talked about this in the past. The Home Repair Network is a kind of a clearinghouse that currently really focuses on the city, but it is much more regional organization. And I'm currently on their advisory council. The goal is to help, with the efficiency of the delivery of services for home repairs within the region. And so you have lots of representatives that are on not-for-profits that provide home repair services. You have lots of people involved in local government who also are providing home repair services. and you have contractors who are actually doing the work, and you have people from the academics side, like Todd Swanstrom, who presented to us last year and explained the need and the value of focusing on home repairs for older adults. And people like myself who are in either architecture or planning, who understand that when you repair people's homes, you can save neighborhoods. So it touches a lot of different people, and also individuals who are involved in training workers, because as we've discussed in the past, there is a significant gap in funded projects and the ability to find contractors to do the actual work. So many of these not-for-profits have very long waiting lists. And if there were more workers, they could attend to significantly more people than they currently do. So if you know of anyone that would be interested in an executive director position with the Home Repair Network, let me know and I'll pass the name along to the people that are interviewing. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, sorry, Nicole's here too.
Oh, hello,
Good,
Nicole.
great.
Well, we
I'm Nicole.
Hi. We've been trying to get on for the last 15 minutes and it wasn't working, and then all of a sudden, by the grace of God, it worked.
Well, welcome. Our first item of business, which we will now revisit, was the Senior Fund Initiative, which we discussed very briefly. But I did mention, Nicole, that you and I had a very interesting conversation with Representative Chris last month, and I introduced who you are, but let me let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole Brueggemann. I am gonna take this woman's big shoes to fill place at the St. Louis City Senior Fund. So many of you know me from my previous role with the Missouri Council on Aging, and that's where I've been working a little bit with Dan and Carol and everyone who's working on the effort in St. Louis County. So I'm here, I'm learning, and I look forward to working with you all.
Welcome. And Jamie, I am assuming the formal transition is at the end of the calendar year.
Yes.
Well, we want to thank you for all that you've done and all that you've contributed to this commission by, not being a commissioner yet attending most of our meetings and keeping us informed about the senior fund in the city and many other things. And we've valued your input over the years, and you will be sorely missed.
Well, thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be part of the meetings and our next goal is to try to get a senior levy fund in the county, right?
Yes.
When's the party?
January. So you'll be getting invitations. Hey, Ann Bannis is one of the people in charge of the party.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
We
Ann
all
and Bill
grew up
Seedoff.
together. Right, Jamie?
Pardon me?
I say you, I, and Ann grew up together, right?
We did. A lot of us did. It's really real. It's just interesting how time has passed so quickly. Even
Wayne.
So we
Sis,
have.
remember our days at the county?
Oh, yeah.
Got in, yay!
Wayne.
Thank
Oh,
you.
we have 5 of our 10 commissioners in attendance, so we don't quite have a quorum yet. We did have a couple people say that they wouldn't be able to join us today. But is there anything that you would like to mention about any new
Yes.
developments regarding the Senior Fund Initiative?
Absolutely. So one of the benefits of being working for the St. Louis City Senior Fund is we have been working very closely with the other few but mighty funders that fund in the older adult network. And that includes the Marillac Mission Fund. And Marillac Mission Fund has a grant with Empower Missouri to work on increasing the number of older adults with getting access to the SNAP benefit program. Data shows that older adults only make up 45% of people in SNAP that could qualify it's being underutilized. And SNAP is different than other types of programs in that there's no limit, like it's just open to anyone who qualifies. And so we're not getting enough older adults in the program. So the grant is focused on two things. It's focused on listening sessions with older adults to find out what are the barriers for them to get into the SNAP program. And then the second part of it is to get more people, well, there's three parts, to get more older adults into the program. And then the third part is 25 other states have a different system that has been working very effectively. And it's, Nicole, it's called ESAP. It's Electronic Supplemental Nutrition. Yeah. Oh no, Elderly Simplified Application Project. Boy, was I wrong on that acronym. And it works in 25 states in that it allows older adults to, currently you have to reapply every year and you have to go through this very kind of onerous process. And then halfway through that 1 year, you have to they come and check to make sure that you haven't won the lottery or anything like that. And it becomes very difficult for people with all the paperwork. But with this Elderly Simplified Application Project, it would be like they would sign up and they would be in for 3 years. And it would be all very easy and they wouldn't have to do that mid-year review and so forth. And so we've been working with Empower Missouri to do these listening sessions in senior centers in the city. I know that they've done some in Lincoln County and they're trying to do some others, I think, in Franklin County and so forth. And I've connected them with Lisa Knoll. But we're asking people to, so this policy change, Carol knows that there's two types of ways to change this type of work in state government. One is to go through the legislature, but this is actually an administrative change. And so it can be done with the Department of Social Services. So they are asking right now for people any age to sign on to a letter, a little postcard that they can then give to Department of Social Services at the state, asking them to consider this program that would make life a lot easier, and with the hope that this would then help to increase the number of older adults in the SNAP benefit food program. So I've said a lot.
Wow.
Jamie,
That's,
how are the postcards being distributed? I mean, is that Empower Missouri who's taking the lead on that initiative, and how do they end up in people's mailboxes?
So that's a good question. I think what I would like to do, if you all are okay with this, is have maybe Christine Woody reach out and give you more of the details. What I'm doing is we're getting these into, so we learned from SLAE that they have on their assessment form, does their client, when they do an assessment form, have the SNAP benefit program. Some senior centers are filling that out, some senior centers aren't. So what we're hoping to do, Nicole and I've been talking about, is have an intern work on this project with Christine in the city to go through the database that SLAE has and look at income guidelines and look at whether they've answered this question, yes or no, and then start having interns maybe start calling people along with staff from the senior centers and trying to get information. Number one, are they signed up? And if not, do they qualify? And if they are interested and they look like they could qualify, we have a relationship with, help me again, the food bank, St. Louis Food Bank.
Food Bank.
No, St. Louis Food Bank.
Oh, Food Bank was there yesterday.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of meetings about food lately. And so the St. Louis Food Bank has 3 full-time staff, and that's their sole job, is to get people connected to this program, and they can do it over the phone and at no charge. So I'm not answering your question because I'm giving you more information, but to answer your question, Carol, is we're still learning how we can be, this was our first meeting that we had yesterday, and we're still kind of learning some of the ins and outs of this grant and how we can get these into the hands of older adults. So I think what we're doing is we're trying to go through at least the Area Agency on Aging, and Christine is connected with Lisa. But the question is maybe to Susan, Susan, can you get these into the hands of older adults, clients that you all serve?
Yes, we can.
Oh, awesome.
Because, in terms of the postcard, because that's more of a campaign, does it have to be sent by an older adult, or can it be someone who just feels this is really important? Because it's just an administrative change.
Yes.
But in the city, City Green Market does a really good job of reaching older adults, and they have a SNAP program. And then Metro Market, which is the drive around bus that has food, they reach a lot of older adults, but they also reach a lot of people who recognize the importance of a SNAP program and would probably be supportive of saying, let's make this easier. I mean, it's just making it easier for older adults.
Right, exactly. And we've actually funded the Metro Market in the past, so I completely forgot it. Thanks, Carol. Those are both great leads. The thing about it is I don't know how Christine plans to collect these, because she's planning on collecting this. And so I can follow up and get more information, Susan, and I'll send it to you if that's okay to send to the committee. And maybe next month at your meeting, if you have an open timeline, maybe we can invite Christine to join Nicole and give you more of the details on this. Like I said, we just kind of had our first meeting yesterday, and because Christine's not connected with the Aging Network, we are just trying to help her and advise her on ways to get more of these signed across the state. I do know Julie Peets, who is the executive director for MA4, is also on advisory committee with me and Nicole on this project. So I'm hoping Julie's working with her through the other area agencies on aging. But I'm signing one. I'm 62, and hopefully those of you on the call would also sign one as well. I can get those to Susan.
Jamie.
How soon?
I
How
wish
soon
I
can you
think
get them to Susan?
Repeat that question,
I was
please.
saying, how quickly can we get those?
Oh, I can drop them off this week to Susan. If Susan, are you in office today? It looks like.
yes.
Yes. Susan, I can drop this off to you on my way home. What time? We'll figure that out today. Is that okay?
Jamie, I think one of the things we can also do is contact our council members and tell them this is going on. And then one other group that I was not really aware of is the Asian Chamber of Commerce. I went to an event for them, and they are very, very, engaged. And that might be a great way to get to that community.
Awesome.
Definitely.
I think Nicole knows about the Asian Chamber of Commerce, so we will follow up. Thank you, Liz. That's perfect. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We are also, next month, we'll be releasing, excuse me, an after action report from the Heritage House housing catastrophe last January, emergency, I mean. And so we've been working with UMSL and on this, and we're just finalizing the report now. Next step is it goes to the mayor's office for review because they were the nucleus of the response. And I know that this is something that you all are interested in too because of the emergency closing of Santa Ana. And so really what this is just a recap of what people who were involved in this emergency learned, what felt that was done well and felt like what could be done to improve the situation the next time. I also know that part of the work will continue with the regional response team, that AJ, who you all know very well, leads the regional response team. And so they're hoping to take this information and to be able to address some of the barriers that have been identified in this report for the city and the county.
Great.
That's it. My last report.
Oh, my gosh.
Thanks,
Let's
Jamie.
mark this in the meeting minutes.
And I think we have a quorum now.
Yes, we
Yes.
do. Yes, we do. So we currently have Lillian, Wayne, Mike, Carol, me, and Liz. So yes, we have a quorum. But there's nothing to vote on yet. Carol?
I just had one quick question for Jamie before she goes. Just about the structure of the senior levy board. Are members of that board, do they serve, are they on for a certain time frame, or is this an appointment for life? Or
No.
I just, I was just curious.
No, great question. So the way that the state statute sets it up is you have 2 people on for the first year, then the next 2 people on for 2 years, and then the next 2 people on for 3 years, and then 1 person on for 4 years. And then you can reapply to be on. You have to go through the county or the city boards commission, like from the city, it's the St. Louis City Boards and Commission, probably the same group that you work for or that you report to or apply to be on this board as well. And people can apply as many times as they'd like to be on that board. And then it does go through the approval process of, like for us, the St. Louis City Boards and Commission. It goes through the mayor and it goes through the Board of Aldermen for approval.
Thank you.
And I did have an update on the St. Louis County Senior Levy Task Force, if you want me to talk about that just briefly.
Please do. Please do.
It's very short. We had a Mirror Lake Mission Funds leading that work, as you know, and I have joined their. There's a steering committee, but then there's, I think, like an executive committee of like 4 people, 5 people. It includes Adam Marlis from Lutheran Senior Services. He's the executive director. He is the fiscal agent. His organization, again, is the fiscal agent for the initiative. They've already received their first grant of $40,000 for the program manager. The program manager position is now out and posted, and I'm in my home address. We'll be receiving those applications as a volunteer. I'm also on this executive committee along with Chris Bakley, who's the CEO for Cardinal Ritter Senior Services. And then I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman from Paraquad. He does their advocacy director.
Earl.
I
can't think of his last name. He's new.
He's new. So Earl from Paraquad. Carol, I think you know Earl. And then Marcus from Metropolitan Congregations United is also on that executive committee, as well as another woman from North County who leads, I can't think of her name. She wasn't at the meeting, but
Is her name Beatrice?
no, that's I'll email you the names when I stop talking. I'll put it in the chat. Anyway, we had our first meeting on Monday as an executive committee or whatever it's called, and the application for the program manager, which I'm not applying for, is going out. So if you know of anyone that's interested in this position, please let us know, either Katie Keller from Marillac or myself. And so the job description is out there. The first grant by Marillac was received. I know the next step, the budget has been developed. The campaign, the education budget is set at $400,000. And I know that Mayor-elect Mission Fund is taking the lead on talking to the other funders as they did last time, which includes the Lutheran Foundation and the Missouri Foundation for Health and Deaconess Foundation, and potentially Charlotte's Foundation. Then the budget for the actual campaign is set at $600,000. The committee for committees have been already, people have already on the steering committee volunteered to be on different committees. And there is a fundraising committee of, I think, 5 or 6 people, and they have met and they're getting started on that process. And then last but not least, the RFP for the campaign consultant has also this week gone out. So there's 2, I know that the Kelly Group, who was our campaign consultant last time, is planning to apply again, as is the organization Creative Entourage, who did the polling. So those are 2 organizations that are planning to respond to the RFP. So things are moving forward.
It's good.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that update.
Sure.
Are there any additional questions regarding the senior fund or the senior tax levy initiative? Do we have any reports on the Commission on Disabilities? I don't see Sue Orton on the call. I know that the my last conversation was, I think, prior to the last month's meeting, which was that it was with the lawyers. The proposed ordinance for the universal design ordinance was still in the works, but Carol and I had met with Councilwoman Lisa Clancy and her advisor and members of the Commission on Disabilities to try to refine the wording on that ordinance, and I'm just waiting for the next step. I do have a question regarding the Senior Fund Initiative. There have been emails back and forth regarding the legality of the wording of the property tax freeze in the county and what is where the freeze is applicable and where it is not. So in the city, as we learned from a presentation at the steering committee for the tax levy initiative, that about 41% of all property taxes collected are frozen, and the remaining items that go to other entities that are not kind of city organizations, such as the school board and public safety and others, are not frozen. And it was the way that the ordinance was, not doing a good job explaining this, but the way that the ordinance was written, in and adopted at the county level, it's a little unclear what revenues are frozen, what revenues are not frozen. And when I asked the question to Councilwoman Clancy's office, I was told that there were only 2 items that were not frozen. One had to do with a debt service, and the other one had to do with some organization for the blind. And what I understand now, I've received other emails since then, is that probably the determination of what is frozen and what isn't frozen will come down to, some legal efforts. People will probably have to sue to determine what really is frozen and what isn't. And the reason that this is pertinent to the senior tax levy issue is that, well, it's pertinent in many ways. One is that there's a perception, if you're trying to get people to vote yes for a senior tax levy, and they just received notice that they're getting a freeze on when they turn 62 on their property tax, And then they discover that, well, only this small portion of what what you pay in taxes is actually frozen. And by the way, will you vote for this new tax that probably is not frozen, or there needs to be some clarity on that. The question is how to tell this story in an effective manner so that we can get people to vote yes on this. Discussion?
Yeah, so actually, did you all receive any kind of email from Lindsay Baker from the Missouri Budget Project about this issue?
Not all of us, I don't think.
Okay, I'm happy to forward it. Susan, if I forward it to you, do you mind forwarding it out? We just received an email from a legal analysis from Lindsay Baker. I guess it was Monday, November 25th. And so to be perfectly honest, I haven't even had a chance to go through this, but it does provide some more clarity around the issue. Nicole, do you?
So I've been involved in these discussions as well, and it is confusing, right? I mean, it's not clear. So if it's not clear to all of us who work in this every day, it's really not going to be clear to the people who are being asked to vote on something. And we have a lot to learn from the Jackson County initiative that recently did pass. But there was a lot of confusion around the language, and it may have passed by a bigger margin if that could have been cleared up. So the steering committee for the county, St. Louis County initiative is going to be meeting with the Jackson County initiative organizers in January to learn how they messaged that. It is not clear, and it is very confusing. That probably doesn't answer anyone's question right now, except for to reaffirm that we have some issues to deal with. And I would think that the St. Louis County Committee, in preparation for this passage, would need to really have a strong understanding of what is possible.
I also think it's going to be really important to, once we have, I mean, look, Missouri Budget Project is getting the person that they've been reaching out to for their legal, input is someone very well respected in the state with the Missouri Supreme Court and is very knowledgeable about this subject. And so I'm thinking that this could be something that would be part of the process that, Carol, remember last time how we met with the different county council members and we talked about, getting this on the ballot and so forth, and talking about this with what used to be Senate Bill 190, I forget what it is now, but I think is going to be part of that discussion with the county council members and the county executive as well.
I think everyone understands that, there needs to be clarity on both the property tax freeze and this new tax levy, so that when people are asked to vote on it, their questions are answered. And I fear that people who are against any sort of taxes at all will just grasp onto any little item they can to, kill the deal. And so I think it's important to, from a communication standpoint, to really have a good answer to, these are the things that are frozen. These are the things that are not frozen. This is why we still need a senior tax levy in the county. It's working in how many counties in the state right now?
56 now.
56.
Jamie, how is the city able to explain the differences?
So we since we had a senior levy fund before the tax freeze went into place,
You didn't have to worry about it.
we didn't, well, but we did talk with the mayor's office, and the mayor's office had agreed from the very start that they would hold harmless any other special taxing districts in the school districts. So they put it into their ordinance or whatever. I don't know how it is documented, but basically they're not it's not being that freeze is not being passed along to any taxing district other than the city itself. And that's that's what the legal expert is saying, is that's the only authority that a city or county has to begin with, is they don't have control on any other taxing district except their own.
Josh, can you help? Do you have any ideas on this? Thoughts on?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with, because I'm just filling in for Mac today,
Right.
so I'll make a note to check with Mac and see if he has any knowledge about this.
Um,
I
I
do
think that-
feel, go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, from when I asked, I did receive an earlier communication from, I think, a meeting that happened with the Missouri Budget Project, and I kind of took a snapshot of one citation and forwarded that to Lisa Clancy's office and to her assistant, and asked this question, and the answer I got back was, the ordinance is very short, not a lot of detail. And it was, their understanding when they voted on it, that the only exclusions were the two that I mentioned. One was some Missouri Organization for the Blind, and one was some debt-related entity, and that everything else was frozen. Was applicable. The freeze was applied to everything else. So that is completely contradicted by what you're now saying. And so I think. And I think you would agree that the only way this gets resolved is through some sort of legal action.
And that could be something that the seniors count the steering committee will be discussing along with the executive committee, or whatever that smaller group is called. They set that smaller group up so decisions could be made, and not having to pull in 20 people on the steering committee with all the minor decisions. But that is something that will probably go to this full steering committee to talk about adding that into the budget, to get that legal advice. And the other thing I think that they're looking at is making sure that is there a chance to change this ahead of time, the actual ballot language, so that the children, just like in the county, the Children's Service Fund is now part of the county government, and it's not supposed to be. And so again, an agency would have to sue the county in order to set it free. And so this, as is the same, if this county gets a senior levy fund, it is a separate entity, a political subdivision that's not part of county government. And I think that the group is also looking to change, to make sure that the ballot language explicitly states that. And for reasons is that when the polling was done about a senior levy fund, one of the questions asked was, would you support something like this? And, but one of the questions included in this was their faith and in the county government having their best interest and being able to manage these funds and so forth. And it was only at 38%, and faith in the county government. I think governments right now are, people just don't have faith in it at all, which is a shame, because governments do a lot of really good work. Anyway, I think that would be another reason why they feel like it's very important that the senior levy fund is overseen by a board such as yours. They see that as a natural fit, but that it has its own and the board would then be over the funds as it states in the state statute.
So that's funny that when Nicole and I had our conversation with the state representative, he brought up that point very clearly and was very concerned about the perception of mismanagement at the county level. And Nicole jumped in very quickly and said this would be an independent board, not overseen by the county council or the county executive.
Absolutely.
To make these granting decisions. So it just seems that whoever the advisory, whatever your group is called, that above the steering committee, whoever's making the decision about hiring this this consultant, whether it's Kelly Group or Creative Entourage or someone else, those two questions, having good answers for both the tax freeze relationship to this issue and the independence of this board seems like two things that have really got to be thought carefully about in terms of the nuance of how it's communicated.
Yeah.
It's so important, Dan. And I think our partner on the Clay County side, Tina Uridge, who worked with Jackson County, there was some media strikes, against this very issue. And she said, you really got to be clear with people about it. And I have mentioned that since then. And I think that's what's precipitating, like, we gotta learn from them quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, this is a challenging time. Next item on the agenda is the commission member share out and commission events. And I'm going to just start off by sharing out something that Lisa Knoll shared with me last night. And that it was too late to get on our agenda, but I think it's really important to mention. And I did send a copy of an attachment to Susan, and I'm hoping that she would be able to share it with the commission. So the final needs assessment for the Missouri Master Plan on Aging came out. The final report came out, and I was able to review it yesterday. It's an amazing document with a lot of great information in it. But in addition to that document, which we hope to share with you all, there's a separate report that will be coming out later in December that breaks out the data on a county and zip code level, which we don't have yet. And that will be very, very helpful to us, be able to see St. Louis County isolated. But the information is pretty extensive, and I have the executive summary in front of me. Let's see, did you just send that out? I just received something from Susan. What was that? Susan, what did you just send? Anyway, but the executive summary, lays out all of the different survey questions and who was surveyed and all of the demographics related to the answers. But who responded, age, whether disabilities, with disability types, whether people were caregivers or not, how, and great detail about caregiving, great detail about housing needs, great detail about transportation needs. It's just, just glancing at it, it's just a treasure trove of information. Have you, Nicole and Jamie, have you seen that yet? You have any comments on that?
It should be available on the state's website.
I see that. Okay. I see that Wilma has joined us as well. But we have a PDF that we can share as well, so that everybody can review it. But I was focusing in on items related to home repair, because I'm involved in the home repair network, and I did forward it to Todd Swanstrom, who just was fascinated by the report, and it's going great. This supports everything we've been saying. So I'm hoping that this could be really used as an important tool to help provide more services.
It's a really big deal. I think the report is very important in terms of, it's been a while since, and Jamie could tell us when the last time we really collected data on a statewide basis. And so I think that there's just, we should all dedicate some time to looking through it. And Wilma was previously on the phone and said for me to say hi, but now she's on, so.
Hello, Wilma. So I think we may all have a copy of it now. Just, review it. and see, with our next year's committee of a whole presentation to the county council. Last year we made some asks. We weren't terribly successful in getting like any funding for anything that we asked for this past year. And that just stresses the importance of having a separate entity with money to fund some of these initiatives, because it's very challenging to get funding from the county. Last year, for instance, we asked for funding for a housing assessment similar to the one produced in the city to identify the needs for home repair. It was about a $60,000 charge to the city, which I think the senior fund helped fund. And that report has fueled, this effort towards the home repair network really growing as an entity and getting a lot of other corporate funding for its initiatives. Data, we're supposed to be data driven. I mean, to make decisions on public policy, how can you do it without data? And we need to know what the inventory is in the county, and we really don't. We can guess based on what the report says in the city, but we don't have data yet. Anyway, get off the soapbox now.
And I put a link to the state on the state website. It is, Nicole's right. So I put a link in the chat. It takes you to the report.
Oh, good. So
Okay.
it's public information. We're not sharing anything that's not already public.
Did any of you do that online, the assessment?
Yes, I think most of us did.
Okay.
Did any of you find it like it didn't really apply very much, like the questions to, I just found it not applicable for me, was on a lot of different issues.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. If you want to know I think it was a great undertaking, but I think because it was, and rightly so, distributed statewide, the only concern I have is it was the way it was collected online. You're not going to get people who have trouble with, technology as I did when I was getting on the meeting today. Number two, you're not going to get people who don't have, it's hard to do something like that on your phone. A lot of lower income people use their phone. They don't have computers. And a lot of people also don't have good, internet access. And so, I think it's going to be skewed more to higher functioning, higher income people. So that's my only concern.
I think that's a good point. And when you look at the answers to some of the questions related to broadband and technology, it's probably more generous, or it seems to suggest that more people have access than what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, let me ask you online if you have access online.
Exactly.
Dan, I mentioned earlier that I was supposed to be on another meeting right now, which is on the broadband, and I have to say that my participation on that group, they forget, as Jamie knows all too well. You hear about the need for broadband is because of educational needs and because of job seeking. And every time I bring up older adults and telehealth, they go, "Oh yeah, that too," but they really do not. That's not on their radar.
Well, even the people that this survey did reach, when the question is asked regarding barriers to home high-speed internet broadband, and you look at just older adults, what are the reasons you do not have high-speed internet broadband at home? 30% say it's not available in their area. 11% say it's available but not reliable. 49% say they can't afford high-speed internet.
Mhm.
22% say they're not interested in it. So, the vast majority of people who are, I mean, I think that question is to the people who aren't getting it, why they're not getting it. But to your point, Jamie, who's getting it? The earlier question is percent of respondents with high-speed internet broadband at home, older adults age 50 plus, 85% said they have it. And to your point, that's probably not an accurate answer.
It would be interesting to know how many non-internet, how many people completed the hard copy. I doubt very many, but it was an option, and it was an option to do it over the phone as well. I know we had quite a few we asked for hard copies to be printed, and Lisa was very good, and we delivered them to Cookie, who then in turn delivered them to people in her community because she felt that it was very important. And to your point, Jamie, I think that reaching those individuals, I mean, there needed to be a concerted effort. I was kind of very concerned about that as well, because there were a lot of people, like all of us on the commission, who completed the report, but it would have been good to hear from more individuals who were receiving home delivered meals, who don't have a computer, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't have to beat this horse, but I agree with your point, and hope that there was effort to try and reach some of that population.
Well, one of the points that Todd Swanstrom brought out after he skimmed this, of course, he goes right to the questions regarding barriers to making needed home repairs. For older adults, 71% of the respondents that were over 55 cannot afford to make the repairs. 71%. It's huge. So yes, we'll acknowledge there are flaws to this report, but it's still going to provide extremely important data and an argument for funding in specific areas. Hope we can use it that way. I had a couple other things to share out. We had a comprehensive plan, St. Louis County 2050 comprehensive plan, town hall listening sessions throughout the county. I attended the one at Queenie Park last month. It was very well attended on a very rainy day. And I thought it was a very useful exercise to get the community to weigh in on their priorities regarding the comprehensive plan. And I was reading through, they would issue people, a limited number of stick pins, and you were able to go around to different posters and stick pin the items that you found the highest priority for you. There were a lot of stick pins regarding affordable housing. There were a lot of stick pins regarding transportation accessibility in the county. I think we do a pretty good job on Parks and Rec. I think it's much more challenging to do a good job for those really costly things like transportation. A lot of complaints about traffic and accessibility. I thought it was a really good event. I don't know if anyone else attended any of the other listening sessions. Carol, what was and Liz, did you have any opinions on
Carol,
you
go
saw?
ahead.
Carol's
You're muted,
unmuted.
Carol.
Okay.
Carol, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Liz and I attended the one in Florissant, and Cookie was there, as well as Councilwoman Webb was there. So we did make a point of all three of us visiting with the councilwoman, and I think she was incredibly appreciative of the fact that we were there to make sure older adults were a part of this discussion and process. So it was pretty well attended as well. I think that probably the push pins were similar to what Dan, transportation certainly, and affordable housing were two areas. And we also, Liz had some really good recommendations. So Liz, why don't you speak to that?
Can't remember which one you're talking about. Well, I think the one that I kept on bringing up on the transportation was that all the attention being given to light rail seemed to be poorly, not the right way to for transportation in the future, because electric buses are much more flexible, and they're take people who have disabilities and all of that, and it's just a much to have a safe, efficient, and reliable bus system would be would, in my view, would be the best way to think of transportation for the future.
Yeah, I think
Liz, I
Liz,
think you also brought up the importance of fire departments
Yes.
and emergency management in terms of the whole transportation discussion, because they seem to be lacking in some of the recommendations, and I thought that was good.
Mhm. Well, I had spoken to you, Liz, prior to going to the listening session, and of course, driving out Manchester to get to Queenie Park. You understand the importance of good transportation when you don't have it.
Mhm.
I talked about improved bus service. Even, I mean, there's things that are done around the world that we just don't do well in this country, and there are things that are done in, for instance, in Amsterdam that, if you have a dedicated public transportation lane for buses, it's amazing how that impacts the rest of the traffic. Of course, they also have dedicated bike lanes, but if you can make it easier for people to take public transit without spending a fortune, and we know that light rail costs a lot of money because you have to build these stations and then you have to go underground, and it's probably the most costly way to get public transportation. And then it's very limited in its route, so people don't use it. And then when people don't use something, it's ripe for crime because there aren't observers. And when there are no observers, there are perpetrators. Anyway, I did put a lot of stick pins related to public transportation as well. There was also 2 days ago, Urban Land Institute had a housing trends meeting, and what was presented was the results of a HUD study that will be coming out soon. That was the architecture firm Gensler was commissioned to do this study for HUD, and the study is in regards to looking at the inner city area and the reuse of office buildings for housing, because we have experienced since the pandemic an enormous reduction throughout the country in the occupancy rates in office buildings in every major city. And there are certain cities in the world that are doing a good job at dealing with this. One of the places that's doing an excellent job is Calgary. Calgary has a program where they will give incentives of $75 per square foot of renovated building towards conversion from office to housing. And what the HUD study has done is it's focused on about, I think, a little less than 30 buildings in the St. Louis Central Business District that appear to have very low occupancy rates for office buildings. And there are certain criteria on which they're evaluated to see if they're good, there are good opportunities for conversion to housing. And they didn't get into all the details. It's like a 700-page report or something. So we got the half-hour version, but it's coming out soon, and I think it could have a significant, if the city really takes heart at this study and applies some sort of incentive program for conversion, you know, it affects affordable housing, it affects accessible housing, it affects crime in a city, because we know that when people live somewhere and there are, as I mentioned earlier, observers in a community 24/7, that there are less perpetrators, because criminals don't want to get caught. So when you have observers, natural observers who live there, who work there, who shop there, you have less crime.
Dan, Dan, did they bring up at all a conversation about the universities? Because, you know, Washington University and St. Louis University have huge endowments. They own a ton of property. And why aren't they major players in making sure, you know, getting behind efforts like what you just mentioned?
Well, I think their agendas are different than public organizations. Their agenda is the survival of their entity, and we know what's happening with SLU right now. They're struggling financially, and they put a freeze on all their new construction. A lot of that has to do with, in the past, a significant revenue stream were foreign students, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for foreign students to get to this country. And SLU has lost a significant revenue stream because of that. And they've stopped major capital improvement projects because of it. And I think they're having other cost savings measures applied as well. So WashU's a little different. I think they've been focused on purchasing a lot of property in their area. And we're going to see a lot of development, but that's development for their students. It's not really development for the community.
Well, you know, I actually talked to someone who's at WashU, and the head of WashU was talking about how they have purchased all these properties because they could, and that they really don't know what they're going to do with them all.
Yeah.
So that seems to me to be an area where there could be more leadership.
Well, I would agree, but we would have to talk to the trustees of Washington University to getting anywhere on that one. I've actually worked with past chancellors and vice chancellors at WashU to try to get them to do something that Nancy Morrow Howell was very interested in years ago, which since Washington University is an age-friendly university, it's part of an international age-friendly network. And as part of that, they were trying to encourage older people to take classes on campus and to actually live on campus. And so we had pitched an idea to one of the vice chancellors at the time to use some underutilized property that Washington University owned to convert it into intergenerational housing. And to encourage the people that lived in those housing campuses, who traditionally, when you look at the history of those sorts of developments, they tend to be retired professors and retired alums that want to have a connection to their university and want to continue to learn. And Washington University really meets the rubric for a successful project like that. And so, for instance, we pitched the old CVC property on Clayton Road as an opportunity for an intergenerational living community. And we got a lot of interest from the vice chancellor. We got zero interest from the trustees. So.
That was actually one of the properties that the person I was talking to, who's in the architect side of things down at WashU was mentioning as kind of an albatross. They don't quite know what to do with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when we were dealing with it, it was primarily intramural sports. They were using the practice fields. That's about it. But you're right. It would be wonderful if somebody with enough sway could advocate for something, something that would benefit the larger community. But I don't know how to do that. I don't know. Does anybody have any good ideas? Do you know any trustees of Washington University?
Dan, I have to say, I mean, I don't know, but I was talking with people who are involved with my alma mater, which is Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And Trinity College got very involved in buying up property and making it available and fixing it up and doing all of that as a way of protecting the campus, the students, and, the area as a whole. So I think Yale University is another one that has gotten very involved in revitalizing the community. So I do think there are other examples of these universities recognizing the value of being leaders in revitalizing the surrounding regions.
Well, they do. They are one of the biggest employers in the region. So, I mean, they are
Exactly.
benefiting the community for sure. But yeah, I don't know if it's within our purview though. But it's a good point.
It might be something that we should explore in some way.
Mhm. Does anyone else have any share outs?
Well, good morning. Sorry, I was doing grandparent duty this morning, and we're at the last days of Medicare open enrollment. And let me tell you, we have had over 200 phone calls statewide every day since October 1st. And the whole Mercy anthem thing really caused problems. But there is a cap for anybody that knows an older adult that is on medication. There's a $2,000 cap for all medications for anybody that has Medicare Part D or Medicare Advantage. And that has led to some changes in premiums and the cost of drugs. So we're going to see some very interesting things coming down the pike when it comes to Medicare. And hang on to your hats. So that's all that my world has been for the last month and a half. So,
Well, do you have any predictions about what's coming up for us?
well, what I think what's going to happen is one, the there are 10 drugs, brand name drugs that Medicare is finally negotiating to lower the cost. So all those commercials where people are jumping around and dancing and stuff, those are the medications that Medicare is finally negotiating with manufacturers. After 2026, it's no telling. We've heard all kinds of things like major slashes in Medicare services. And actually, my organization is worried sick that under the new administration, that we will be defunded because the person that is the designate is a managed care proponent. So Dr. Oz, we will see. So hang on to
Well,
your hats and
Yeah,
save your money.
yeah, but at least the availability of crudités won't be diminished. That's a bit of a deep cut about the Pennsylvania race. Sorry.
So,
One thing I wanted to just add to is that I don't know how many people get the Post-Dispatch, but there was an editorial in the Post-Dispatch on elder financial abuse. It was kind of frustrating because it wasn't as applicable to Missouri. So glad to bring it up, glad that it was, there was a shout out on it, but it'll be, that is an area that needs more attention. I was happy to see that Court von Ostrom was being considered for Wesley Bell's job, and hope that the governor's office and the state people don't try to derail that, because he'd be an excellent person in that job, I think. And somebody who I could certainly talk to about the need for more attention to financial abuse and exploitation.
If the state flexes its muscles on this, do we know who they would be interested in having in that position?
No, but I think this is one of those times when I'm just hoping that, Dr. Page made a good choice. In my opinion, the three people that he was considering, Court is the one who I think is, just the strongest from, and I think he appeals across party lines. So that's one thing that, I have sort of on my radar. I also did speak with Dr. Page and actually Tashira Jones as well. They were at the Asian Chamber of Commerce event I went to. And he again, complimented this commission on a lot of what we're doing. So that was nice to hear.
And Liz, was that article on elder abuse, was that in a recently in the Post? Do you recall when?
Carol, do you remember, was it Sunday?
No,
It
I
was,
think it was Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, in the
It
It
last
was a
week.
little, I found the article a little disjointed, but
yeah, I agree.
I mean, it was written by, someone not from Missouri, but I question if maybe a follow-up letter to the editor might be prudent, but I'm not sure who would write that, but
Well, I'd like to read it and see what it says, so
yeah,
thank you.
I think it's a good idea.
Susan, would that be possible for you to possibly get that article and send it to everybody?
I can try.
That would be great, because there are some people who aren't on this call. It might revive some actions.
I have one more share out. I did also attend a housing symposium this past month. And one of the members of this, the organizers of this housing symposium, is a friend who also serves on the Home Repair Network. And he does public kind of advocacy for the Realtors Association. And they produced this amazing document that I will try to figure out how to share with everyone. I haven't read it yet, but it goes into great detail about providing, accelerating the housing supply and providing and studying generational trends and how to collaborate in the community to improve housing stock for all, accessible housing stock. So anyway, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening on the housing. I don't know where that's going. To Wilma's point, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen on the housing front. I know that there was we seem to be trending towards a lot of focus on affordable housing in the past few years. That might change. I don't know if we're going to be developing housing in the middle of federal parks now or what, but we need the housing in dense areas. Anyway, does anyone else have any share outs? Carol.
Well, I was just going to mention, Dan, that this might be a good time to think about scheduling a meeting with Dr. Page, because we've historically done an annual meeting with generally the chair and the chair-elect. You and I did it
Yeah.
together. And scheduling now for like February is not unrealistic. So you may want to give his office a buzz.
Yes. What is the best way to get, I've had a lot of struggles trying to communicate with Dr. Page over the past many months. Can somebody help me?
I usually
Find
email
better
or text, but
I
you
don't
may
have his
want to
text.
call. Liz,
Yeah, I let me see if I can't get a hold of him. I
Right.
can, since I just saw him, it would make sense for me to reach out to him, and I can do so on behalf of the commission, and then recommend that the next chair, the outgoing chair, and the incoming
Well,
chair meet with him.
I'd appreciate having a direct email to send to him. I don't even have a direct email that I can find.
Well, it's, I can send you his official one.
Yeah,
Um,
probably the
And
one I've been
then-
using.
and then
Is that-
I'll send him a text message.
Yeah, I mean, I see him at the comprehensive plan steering committee meetings. He's usually in attendance. And I ask him questions, and the answers I've been getting lately are let's wait till after the election, which was before the election. But funding struggles continue, and I think a lot of it relates to, you know, the desire to do upgrades for the county offices. And so I don't know if we're a priority right now.
Well, I think the one thing, Dan, just to kind of, we might not be a priority, but we are good news for him.
Yeah,
And so that, when he hears about us, he kind of goes, oh yeah, you guys are actually doing something. So I think that I'll see what I can do
thank
to
you.
arrange for a meeting.
Appreciate that.
I also think he'll be very interested in the data that comes out by zip code for St. Louis County.
Yes.
I think that he will appreciate receiving that. So maybe that can be a carrot to say, we'd really like to
Yes.
come and meet for our year-end, for our kind of annual meeting, and we've got this new data we would like to share.
So when do we, and this is a question for you all that is kind of tied to this, is when do we officially start advocating for, or, since that's our role as advocacy, for the senior tax levy? Is this, this is not something that's happening in 2025. It's, if we can get to a point where there's an actual ballot initiative, it's likely at the 2026. And I probably should have asked that question when Nicole and Jamie were on the call. But if we have an opportunity to get in front of Dr. Page, it seems that that's something we'd want to discuss.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But I think I would get with the steering committee about that, because I think you're going to have maybe one opportunity to make that ask of Dr. Page. I could be incorrect, but I think having ducks in a row is really important. So the steering
Yeah.
committee should be involved in that, so that it, we've got our data and we've got the ask and ready to go. And then, of course, really, it's going to also come down to the county council. So we may want to think about, that should be part of that process as well, is meeting
Yes.
with the members of the county council. And I know, we as a commission have been asked to play a key role with making those connections.
I mean, in the past, we have had council members address this commission at our monthly meetings. We haven't done that in a consistent way. Is that something we want to consider again? Maybe we think about that.
I do think it's important that we recognize that we're dealing with two very separate groups here.
Yeah,
We have to talk to the county executive because that's, and advise him. But I think we have to also have the county council as a separate communication link.
Mhm.
right. And I think many of us have been reaching out to our, our district's reps. And I think that needs to continue and probably accelerate, especially since there are so many issues that are affecting older adults that we want to talk to them about. I think, Carol and I have developed a good relationship with Lisa Clancy through the, since we've been liaisons to the Commission on Disabilities over this Universal Design Initiative. But if there are other opportunities, we should really take those opportunities. Are there any
Totally agree.
issues that if you can think about who represents your district and what issue you think would be important to that representative, let's think about ways to get a better dialogue.
Maybe, Dan, we could have this as an agenda item next month
Good idea.
for January.
I agree.
I think it needs to have some in-depth discussion, and, maybe reaching out to Dr. Page should follow that meeting. It would be interesting what the steering committee advises on that, because I think that's important. The other thing is, I think we want to make sure to reach out to the newly elected representative from Dunaway's district in January to just have a dialogue and let her know that we need a commissioner from that district. I know we did that with Representative Webb shortly after she was elected, and she was very responsive with, okay, I want to assist with filling that position. So
I will try to reach out as well to
Those meetings would be
represent-
best if they were in person. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yes, with
Totally
the,
agree.
when Nicole and I met with Brad Christ, it was over Zoom because it was just hard to get together. And that brings up another point. Do we want to have a face-to-face meeting in January? January is going to be challenging from a transportation perspective. Do we want to do WebEx in January, or do we want to do face-to-face in January?
WebEx probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, let's plan on WebEx for January. And maybe when the weather starts getting nicer, that we do face-to-face. Any additional comments? Anything that we should have had on the agenda that we could maybe do as a share out? Well, it's 10:30. If we agree, I think we could adjourn. Yes? Carol?
should we vote on, oh, we don't have minutes to vote on. I was
No,
gonna
we're gonna
say-
have to wait until the November meeting minutes will have to be voted
Okay,
on in January.
that's cool. I forgot.
Yeah. Are there any other items that that we think it would be appropriate to vote on now that we have a quorum? So our next scheduled meeting is January the 2nd, and we'll plan on it being a WebEx meeting. Do we need to have a motion to adjourn, Josh?
Um,
Would anyone
technically, we
like to-
didn't have a motion to start the meeting.
Well, when we started the meeting, we didn't have a quorum. so-
Right. This is just a complete, I think, unofficial non-voting meeting.
Yeah,
And so since we didn't have, even though we did get a quorum like about 30 minutes in, there was not a vote to like call to order. So we shouldn't do a vote to dismiss.
yeah. So next month, it will be important to have a quorum earlier in our meeting so that we can vote on meeting minutes approvals. And so I'd encourage you to try to get on a little early. Sometimes we have technical difficulties, but if we can get on 15 minutes early, we can usually discover those difficulties and call Susan and ask
Don't
for
call
help.
me.
Oh, Susan.
That's generally what we do, though.
And try to eliminate the difficulties from the get-go.
How do we do that, Wayne?
Yes.
I've
No.
found that I've been getting a separate WebEx meeting, and that if I just click on that separate WebEx meeting that is sent to all panelists, you click on that one, and then you copy the panelist password from that document into the WebEx when you get prompted for a password, you can just copy and paste. And that has been successful for me.
Okay.
Well,
You know-
and that's great if you're on a computer, but trying to do it on phone today was a nightmare.
So I don't know if we can have some technical assistance at the beginning of the next meeting from the generic host.
You know,
Yeah.
can I make a suggestion that those who are having trouble with it, maybe, contact Susan and see if there isn't a way that because Wayne, you, I know, have trouble
Indeed.
getting on. And I don't, because I have, a little join meeting pops up at the lower part of my screen, and I just click on that and I'm in. So that it seems to be the phone and iPad access might be where you're having trouble.
This is, hello.
I'm
Yeah.
open to anything.
Lillian?
Hi, it's Lillian Eunice. Yes, I just wanted to let you know that I have had trouble several times, and so I try to start earlier. But usually today, I think was the earliest I could get in. Sometimes I've been able to do it, but most times not. I don't think it's Susan's fault or anything.
No.
I'm just wondering, can we have now? This may not be technologically possible, but can we have the same WebEx URL each time that we have the meeting? Is that possible to have the same one and the same system? Then that way we can just continuously use that. That's the question. I'm sorry.
And I don't know if there's anybody technologically proficient to answer that here.
Okay.
I don't
know that
know.
the WebEx links are generated through county IT. So I don't think there's a way to have like a static address because they do set up new meetings every month or whatever period.
And I think that's because of public participation.
Correct.
So,
See, and I was just wondering because and the reason why I asked that with my two grandchildren, they have a tutoring session every Tuesday and Thursday, and it's the same way to get in. It's on Zoom, but it's the same way to get in every time. And so the children even know. I have one that's 7 and one that's 9, and they know the way to get in there every time is the same way. So I didn't know if that was possible with WebEx. So
Yeah, it's a good point. And WebEx seems to be the problem. I mean, we've had
Mhm.
other programs that we've used in the past until we were alerted that we were really, I think early in the pandemic, we didn't know that we were supposed to be using WebEx until someone informed us, and we were using Zoom, and we had no problem at all.
Okay.
But when we realized that these were public meetings and that they needed to be recorded and done in a specific way, and we needed to use only WebEx, we had significant problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I had hoped I know that I had problems. I couldn't get on. And we worked it out. So I think we just need to be proactive, and before the Thursday meetings, we might need to have a separate conversation. Lillian, if you wanted me to be involved, I'm happy to do that. But I think we need to contact the IT person and just have them walk us through. And we should be able to get on with the phone. I think I've been able to do that in the past.
Okay, because I'm on now, and I will say that our municipality where I work, it uses WebEx, and the board members have a horrible time whenever we have had to go into virtual sessions, to the point where they just brave the weather and they just come on out because they somehow it doesn't work well for them. But I look forward to this, and this is very informational. Oh, I will just simply say this too. Rita Days and was out at a meeting for the 24 municipalities here in North Central St. Louis County, and they passed out some information. I'll share this more in our next meeting, but they passed out some information that had to do with the tax, the senior property tax freeze program, and the eligibility requirements and everything. And then there was another person advocating that somehow the circuit breaker program would be more beneficial in terms of cost savings to older adults. I was going to share that earlier, but that's something that we can talk about at another time. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. And Ms. Hughes, thank you very much for reaching out to Mr. Laposa. I appreciate that. Love to have that conversation. And I think I'd like to have a week before our meeting, when Susan sends out the agenda, I'd like to at least get together with you, Wilma, to set the agenda and maybe have a little bit more detail, because I know that officially for voting on something, we're supposed to be sticking to, what's on the agenda. And I've been, using the share out that's in our agenda as a way to talk about things that we didn't specifically mention, but I'd like to do a better job of mentioning those specifics. But we will see you all on January 2nd on WebEx, and Wilma, I will call you a little over a week ahead of time and discuss the next agenda, and maybe also you and I could meet with Dr. Page and discuss what you and I might want to address with him as well.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay.
I hope Santa
We're
is
gonna
good to everyone. Santa.
Yes, have a great holiday, everybody.
Happy holidays.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.